I don't know why it came about, honestly. But Scott Hornbacher who's executive producer of the show, had asked me if I had any interest in directing. I think at the end of season 3, and I said no, thank you. I think I'll just focus on acting. And then during season 4, John Slattery had directed his first episode. He had been following around and kind of had expressed interest in doing it. And I found, first of all, he did a wonderful job, but I also saw how he was able to be in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. And I just watched him manage that very, very tricky calculus of being, of wearing many hats. And again, he has a different schedule than I do on the show. He doesn't necessarily work as many days, but I'd also seen Ben Affleck do it on The Town, and I saw Jennifer Westphal do it on Friends with Kids. So I'd seen what went into it a little more firsthand, not just directing, but directing and acting and being on both sides of the camera at once. So when they came at the end of season 4 and asked if I would be interested in doing it for season 5, I said, yeah, I think I would like to do it. And so they said, okay, well, let's see if we can, and see if the timing works out, and see what the scripts look like. And because of how television works, you have a week of prepping the show, then a week of shooting the show, then a week of doing post-production on the show. Well, the week shooting is fine, but the 2 weeks on either end, I'm shooting another episode of the show. So those are tricky weeks for me to do. So the natural solution would be to shoot the first episode, direct the first episode, because at least I'd have a week of prep where I wasn't shooting. And then post I could do on the weekends, or I could do it on my days off, or between setups, or whatever. So that's what we ended up doing, and because of how the scripts came down and how the season was written, the episode that I directed was the second episode of the season. The first episode of season 5 was a 2-parter, and I'm glad I didn't have to direct that one, because there was a giant party scene with Zooby Zooby Zoo and all this other stuff that was happening that was a lot, and that would have been a very high stakes endeavor. But the one I directed had its own, like all directorial things, had its own. It was tea leaves. But January at that point was 8 months pregnant, and because she was pregnant, part of the decision was to make the character have had a thyroid situation that makes her gain a lot of weight. So she was very heavy. So she was this sort of prosthetic thing all over her face and her arms and her chest and her legs, and just she was a fat suit, is the easy way to say that. But it wasn't a fat suit. It was a lot of prosthetic pieces that had to adhere to your body. It was also the summertime. It was 90 degrees. She was pregnant. She was uncomfortable. So there was a lot of exterior difficulties that went into it. But it was exciting. Directing was exciting. It was very much kind of a reboot of getting a different perspective on a show that I felt very comfortable with, and very comfortable with my place in, and then seeing it from a completely different perspective. So I appreciated it, and I really enjoyed it, and came back to do it again in season 6. Had a very similar experience, really enjoyed it, felt even more confident behind the camera and telling people what was needed and what to do. And then when they asked me if I wanted to do it for season 7, I thought about it and thought, I don't think I want to do that. I think I would rather just focus on being an actor and being Don Draper, and not necessarily spending the energy on doing the other half, because it does take a lot of it. It's a serious time commitment. I mean, you are always working when you're directing, especially when you're directing and acting, because you're just constantly there, and you never have a day off. I mean, I don't get many days off anyway as an actor, but you really don't have any time off when you're directing. So there's always a meeting, there's always a decision, there's always something to be done. So I thought for my own sanity, I thought I would take season 7 off from directing and just just do my day job.
Do you think actors have a particular sensibility they bring to directing when they're starting?
I think everybody has a sensibility they bring to directing. I think some people are better than others. I think some people are more comfortable and confident and capable at communicating with people. Really, television directing, really directing of any kind, is about communication. I mean, you really are running this kind of, big machine, and it's all very top-down communication. And if the communication isn't there at the top, then it really, really breaks down once it gets 2-3 levels down. And you're on such a tight schedule that if you don't have good communication, that breakdown happens very quickly, and you really start wasting time, and then you're behind schedule, and then you're over budget, and then bad things happen.
Do you think you learned anything from the other directors on the show?
Oh, definitely.
Like
I think I've learned from everybody that I've ever been on a set with. And that was, I think it's important to learn when you're on a set. I think the worst thing anybody can do is to talk more than they listen on a set, unless you're the director, to be fair. I was very aware of my place on a set always, and really wanted to be observant and learn. It's fascinating. It's a very compartmentalized place, a television movie set. Everyone has their little role to do, and they all do it as well as they can. And we had some of the greatest people in their specific roles, from set decorators to costume designers to set designers to hair and makeup to, pay attention, let them do their job. They'll surprise you, and they'll do.